Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And Thinkorswim Desktop has just had an upgrade. So we're going to go through the release notes that are on Thinkorswim, get ourselves acquainted with the new tools and features that were just added. It should be fun, some good, fresh new tools and feature on the Thinkorswim Desktop platform. I'm also going to use this as a little bit of an opportunity to explore maybe a couple of those tools or a couple of those features that maybe even if they've been upgraded, you might not have been acquainted with the original version. So we'll go at a pace that everybody can follow. But before we can do any of that, let me first of all say hello to everybody who's already chatting in. Great to see so many familiar names as always out there in YouTube. Hello there, Joe, Ricebird, Richard, Eva, Scott, Ted, Jim E, Lori, everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. We always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you are here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive, so it's after the webcast is concluded, and you're just checking out the recording, well, that's fabulous. Enjoy that. But if you'd like to be here in the live stream, you can join us on Wednesdays. We kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time. We'd love to have you here in the live stream audience. And as a benefit of being here in the live stream, you can ask chat questions as long as they're on topic, and I'll address those, or if I can't get to them, another one of our coaches will address that. And today, that's going to be Kevin Horner. Kevin's hanging out in the chats with us. Kevin and I have been working together for years now. Thanks for having my back there, Kevin. Kevin and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody watching. If you have an account on X, you should be following your favorite Schwab presenters there. It's the best place to connect with them in between these live streams when the camera's not on. So you can follow Kevin on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me there at Cameron May CS. But let's get into this discussion of the new tools and features on Thinkorswim. Now, as we do, of course, we need to first pause to consider the risks associated with investing and with trading. So do bear these important disclosures in mind. All corporate/issuers and issuer names and market data are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. There's no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price, and investing involves risks, including the risk of principal. And I should also say, Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as sole means of investment research. Since we're going to be using some chart tools, that's important to know. But let's go right to the Thinkorswim desktop. If you weren't aware, Thinkorswim is constantly working to improve the platform. They'll make regular releases, typically done on a weekend. Now, that's great because it causes minimal disruption, but it can also kind of evade the notice of a user of Thinkorswim. But our engineers do a great job of providing an update for those releases. Right here on the Education tab, we can go to the Learning Center and go right to what are called the release notes. And so they will date when a release happens, so we can see the current release, we can see previous releases over here on the left, and we can work our way down through. So that's what we're going to be doing today. There have been 5 updates to the platform that I think a lot of you are going to be finding pretty interesting. The first one of which we'll go through in just a moment. But first of all, we are going to be mentioning ETFs here. I'm not going to be going into any examples, but we need to be aware that investors in mutual funds and or ETFs should consider carefully the information contained in the prospectus, or if available, the summary prospectus, including investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. You can request a prospectus at schwab.com/ETFs/investor-information. Please read the prospectus carefully before investing. Okay, so with that accomplished, there has been an update to the ETF functionality on Thinkorswim, and that is ETF dividends are now on charts, and those can be adjusted just like with stocks. Until now, the display or the impact on the charts can be adjusted just like they can be with stocks. So until now, historical dividend events on the chart only applied to stocks. With this update, the platform now displays historical dividend data for ETFs as well. Just like with stock dividends, you can enable or disable these events from the Adjust for Dividends chart setting. Now, I said at the beginning of this webcast, I wanted to go through some of these features that sometimes there's been an update to something that somebody didn't even know existed in the first place. And they can be pretty nifty features. So I'm going to explain this one, the Adjust for Dividends chart setting. You can get there by clicking on the style button, the top right of the chart, and then selecting settings in the drop-down menu. In the new window, select equities and then click the drop-down titled Adjust for Dividends. As a heads up, for now, ETF dividends will not appear in the calendar to help reduce clutter, but they will still be visible when you view price history with dividend adjustments on the chart. So I want to talk about this adjust for dividends and why some traders may like to do this and why some traders may not care. But let's go to a chart. Here's the S&P 500. How about we flash over to something like Verizon that pays a fairly substantial dividend when compared to average. The average is a little bit under 2%. Verizon's actually currently paying about a 6.2% dividend yield, three and a half times the average for an S&P 500 paying dividend company. So investors, obviously, when they collect a dividend, they consider that to be a benefit of stock ownership. However, that benefit is not by default displayed on a stock chart, because what happens with a dividend is if there's a $1 dividend paid on a given day, or we hit that X dividend date, what happens to the stock price on that X dividend date? It's actually adjusted downward because the value of the company has literally gone down by $1 per share as they pay $1 for every share to every shareholder. All right. So yeah, the price is adjusted down every time there's a dividend. So let's just lay out a hypothetical. Let's say the stock goes up $4 over the course of a year, but each quarter it pays a $1 dividend, and that price is adjusted downward again. Well, just looking at the price chart after the adjustments, it might look like the stock has done nothing. As a matter of fact, that's very much what we're seeing on Verizon right now. If you look at where Verizon was 12 months ago, you take kind of an average of that day. Let's say that we started around the average. Now, or we could, now let's do that. Now let's go to the start. Let's just assume that we entered Verizon right at the opening bell 12 months ago. And if we look at what price has done, it doesn't look like it's done much. Maybe up 1%, maybe up 2%, but pretty darn flat. However, all along the way, Verizon has actually been paying dividends. And traditionally, when the price is adjusted downward, the chart is not then adjusted back upward to reflect price appreciation plus the value delivered by dividends. But that is a possibility on the Thinkorswim desktop. We've had it for equities in the past, and now that also extends to ETFs. But what we do here is we go up to the chart settings, and under equities, because we're talking about equities, I'm going to go to this area right here that says adjust for dividends. And by default, there is an adjustment if there's what's called a special dividend paid. These tend to be really big one-time events where maybe the company is just rewarding shareholders with a great big cash payment. That can have a big impact on their stock chart and create all kinds of issues. It just looks like a big old nasty gap down. And so those typically are adjusted back up. To erase that gap, a one-time event, let's just sort of blend it out. But what we could do here is, instead of just adjusting for special dividends, the trader might adjust for all dividends. So that what this is going to do is, if we subtracted out $4 in value on the chart, this is going to adjust that chart value back up by $4. So let's click all and apply and OK. And you probably saw a little bit of a shift in the chart. And you'll see where our line was originally drawn, it's now no longer reflecting. Well, this is as if we had just paid attention to capital appreciation in the stock. But now, adjusting for dividends, what's been actual performance, capital appreciation plus dividends, it's more substantial. Does that make sense? In other words, there's been about $1.19, $1.10, $1.19, $1.22, pretty close to maybe $4.75 that have been paid in dividends. So that's now being reflected in this price performance chart. Now, not every trader prefers to do this, but I did want to show how that's done. And this release note gave me the opportunity, gave me the excuse to talk about this feature. So I'm going to go shut that back off. So let's go back up here. John says, Cam or Kevin, does it only adjust on the one candle the day is paid? No, actually, John, yes. But what we need to be aware of is when that price is adjusted, the stock is still trading. So we may not even notice the adjustment on the chart. It may just blend into the background noise of all that's going on that day. But let's go back to our equities tab here. And I'm going to put this back to the default, just so it looks like everybody else's chart. I'm going to get rid of these drawings. Let's just clear that drawing set and move on to our new feature number 2. Let's go back to our education tab, scroll on down, and our second update is that there is expanded keyword search categories that are available in the live news. And again, some people may not have been aware that you can search live news for keywords. So this next one is more of a behind the scenes update. If you're a fan of using our news source in live news, we've made it easier to pull articles with topics that matter to you. We've expanded the keyword search to include a wider array of categories. This means a much longer list of keywords that will be supported going forward. To access the keyword search, go to the Live News gadget in the left sidebar. Click the channel drop-down menu if you'd like to narrow the feeds. By the way, so we can select all data feeds that are providing the news feeds to Thinkorswim, or we can just choose our preferred. Maybe a trader prefers just CNBC and Reuters or whatever. They could uncheck the ones they don't like. I'm going to probably just leave it on all 10. But once we've selected the channels, we can click on the tag icon to open the keyword search and begin typing our keyword. So let's go do that, okay? Let's go over to the, let's go back to our charts. How about we switch up our chart here to Apple? Apple's been a stock that a lot of people have been talking about recently because of their big event they just had yesterday. And maybe somebody has an interest in how that event has had impact on maybe analysts' outlooks. Analysts have new data to work on, and that might cause them to change their targets. So what if we came over here to our live news feature? So if you don't have live news here in the left column, it's one of our gadgets. So we can just switch an existing gadget. We could just choose switch gadget, or we could add a gadget. Let me do that. Hold on a second. Let's close this one out for just a moment. Oops. Open that back up. Too many. Anyway, there we go. Let's hide that for just a moment. We can add a gadget right here. Just click the plus sign and then go to live news right here. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use this one that I have right here. Right now, it's showing just S&P 500 related headlines. How about we zero these headlines in on Apple? Let's choose a channel or all channels. I'm just going to leave it on all channels right there. And then we can click on this little tag feature, which allows us to search the news by a keyword. And how about we just use the word Target? Target Corporation, just Target, just enter on our keyboard. It's going to think for just a moment. It's going to load up articles in which there may be a discussion of analyst targets being changed. So you notice that very first one says Melius Research maintains its buy on Apple. And if I wanted more information down on that, I could then just click on that headline and get the article. So that's a nice new little nifty feature. They've just expanded that feature's capabilities. More keywords are going to work now. So let's go back to our education tab. Let's get acquainted with the new feature number 3 right down here, which is the Active Trader Ladder Default Offsets. Now, this one is for our active trader fans. Sometimes those who use the Active Trader tool will create templates, and the templates can tend to tread on one another. So here's what the update is. We've gotten some feedback from our users in the past regarding the Active Trader Ladders templates, specifically that they didn't always want, those traders didn't always want the loaded template to be overridden by previously used offsets in the ladder. Well, we've gone ahead and set the default to disabled going forward. Toggle this on and off, go to setup, and then application settings. In the new window, you'll be taken to the general tab where you can choose Active Trader from the list of options on the left. In this section, click the checkbox titled Apply Custom Template to All Symbols to switch saving on, or uncheck to switch it off. Okay, that's a lot. Let me just show you what they're talking about here. But we need to be aware down below, note, right here. Note, Enabling this feature causes the current template selected to override any previously saved offsets per symbol, applying whatever template you have to any symbol, regardless of whether you've interacted with it previously or not. Okay, so be aware of that. But here's what it's talking about. It just took us through these steps to turn off or to turn on or turn off this feature. This is what it's talking about. If we go up here to Setup and we go to Application Settings, in the left menu, there's an area specifically for the Active Trader. So I'm going to go to Active Trader, and right there is a box that says Apply Custom Template to all symbols, and this is now defaulted to off. Nope, it's not going to tread on future symbols. If we check that box and apply that, now when we create a template, it overrides offsets that we've used on other symbols. So I realize I'm speaking a different language to a lot of you who don't use the Active Trader tool right now. If you're not familiar with this tool, I'm not going to turn that on. I just wanted to show you with all of those steps that were written into the release notes. That's what it was talking about. But I do have a resource for you if you want to learn about the Active Trader tool, which is found right here on your charts. It's abbreviated to AT for Active Trader. There's that tool. Let me click on it, turn it off again. I did a video on that tool to explain how it works and how to create custom templates and how the ladder works and the offsets and all of that. So let me do this. I'm going to put a link in the chat for the benefit of those who are here. Let's drop this into the chat. There we go. There's a link to my video that I've titled Plan, Click, Trade, a guide to the Active Trader tool on Thinkorswim. All right, so that link will take you directly there. If you're not in the live stream here, in the live stream audience, here's how you can find it for yourself. First of all, I would definitely suggest if you haven't subscribed to our Trader Talks channel on YouTube, do that right now. You can subscribe by going down the lower right-hand corner, click on the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything to do that. Or you can go down below and just click on the subscribe button below the video stream. Anyway, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe, but it only takes a second. But this is where we house our previous webcasts, including this one on the Active Trader tool. So you'd go to the Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast channel on YouTube, and you can go to the playlists and find my playlist for this whole webcast series. So for example, I could go to playlists and scroll right on down to the very bottom. We have lots of webcast series. Mine happens to be the one whose playlist has been parked at the very bottom. So if I go to view full playlist, I could work my way down through here and find that one with the Active Trader tool. Here's a different way of that I could accomplish that same navigation though. Instead, on the Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast page, just do a keyword search. So if I do a search for Active Trader, here we go. Placing trade orders faster with Thinkorswim's Active Trader, or Plan, Click, Trade, a guide to the Active Trader tool on Thinkorswim. All right, so that'll get you acquainted. I know I don't have the luxury of time to explain exactly how the Active Trader tool works and then build a template and then show how this default steps on the others. So this will get you acquainted with that. All right, so now let's move on to our next update. Go back to our education. Down to update number 4, pardon me. And this is a change to our My Tools feature. This is another one. Some people don't even know it exists. It's a nifty little tool. I'll show you how it works. But the My Tools drawing button behavior has changed. Let me hide this left column. We're not using that right now. It's just kind of using up visual space. If you are a My Tools user, we think you'll appreciate this next change. To stay consistent with the behavior of the study tool in that feature, we've made a few changes to the drawing tool button. You'll find all the changes below. First, when in single chart mode, pressing a drawing tool button only applies to the current chart. When in grid mode, pressing the drawing tool button only applies to the charts within that grid. When in all mode, pressing the drawing tools button, the tool will be applied to all charts. When in grid or all chart mode, and a drawing tool is disabled on one of the charts, and the button is pressed on another chart, no changes will be made to the chart in which the button was already disabled, and the toggle has been removed from drawing tools buttons. All right, that's a lot. I'll let you read back through this on your own, but I did want to acquaint ourselves with this My Tools function, and then I'll show you where this stuff is found. Okay, and then you can just sort of read through it, play around with it, and see how it's impacted. But if we go to the charts, let's go to charts, and how about, well, let's just stick with Apple, that's fine. I'm going to go to my chart settings, and right here on the General tab, that's the tab that pops up first when we click on chart settings, down in the lower right-hand corner, there's that little My Tools, and right now it's switched to off. If I switch this to on each chart, now a couple of things I could do. I could choose a single panel, which creates a pop-up. Let's click apply, and I'll just show you what that is. So that's what that looks like. I'm not going to do that. Okay, click OK. Let's click that, click out of that. But let's go back and switch this to on each chart. What this does is it creates a toolbar up at the top of the chart. You see it right up here. And this gives us access, just quick access. Instead of, pardon me, instead of having to go through, let's say, our menu of studies to choose our favorite studies, or a menu of time frames to choose our favorite time frame, or a menu of styles and choose our favorite style, or a menu of drawings and choose our favorite drawings, we can just add all of our favorites essentially and pin them up there to the top. So you can see for this example, there are some drawing tools that I've added here: trend line, text note, rectangle, oval. And there are some technical indicators: simple moving average, MACD histogram, TVM strategy set. That's for one of the webcast series that I teach. But those can be added by clicking on this little customize, this gear icon. That creates this pop-up menu and allows us to add these different features. So let's say, for example, we wanted to add another drawing tool. So how about we choose, let's see, how about our price level tool? Done. All right. So what you'll notice now is we have all those tools that we originally had, plus we have a price level feature. So if I need that quickly, instead of going and finding into my tool menu, I can just click on it. And traders will develop for themselves their preferences here. And once we've settled in on, oh, you know what, I find myself using a specific tool or a specific indicator all the time, it's nice to be able to just add it up there in that My Tools bar. Now, another feature here of this tool is we can reposition these. So maybe I want my price level tool to be over here grouped up with my other drawing tools. So to do that, I could click on my little gear icon. I could move that price level up near, let's say, between oval and rectangle. Just click and drag it up there and click done. There we go. And now my price level's over here. Now, final thing I wanted to show before I'm going to show those new features is that right over here, there's a little pin button. For right now, we have a static bar up here where I can always see which tools I have. But maybe the trader doesn't feel like they need to be able to see that all the time. Sometimes having a larger chart is more valuable. So we can actually unpin this, and then you'll notice that drawer, that label just sort of disappeared. And you think, oh no, where'd my tools go? Well, if I need those, just go up to the top of the chart, sort of point at one of these blank spots here, and it just pops back down again. So let's just anchor that again so it doesn't disappear on us again. But finally, this made reference, if we go back here to the Education tab, where'd it go? There we are. It says if you're in single chart mode, if you're in grid mode, if you're in all mode. What in the world do those mean? Well, you'll notice over here, single, grid, all. That's what it's making reference to. All right. So that's where those changes have been made. I'm going to take this off now. Let's get back to, actually, you know what? Let's just hide it for now. That's okay. I'll leave it up there. Or should I just take it off? Let's do that. There we go. Anyway, one final thing. Let's see. Yuri says, Cameron, to make sure this My Tools menu shows up on another device, do I need to save this as a new grid? Well, no, as long as you're logging in with the same username and password, and it's on Thinkorswim desktop, that transfers. Let's see. Jenny says, hello, are there classes for beginners? Jenny, that's actually a great question. I don't mind. I have time. Let me show that. Yes, I actually created a whole series just exactly like that. And as a matter of fact, I just refreshed it, literally finished it like 3 webcasts ago. So here's where you would find that, Jenny. You'd go to our Trader Talk Schwab Coaching webcast channel, go to the playlists, and obviously this is the Getting Started with Thinkorswim playlist. So I'm going to go right down to the bottom, click on View Full Playlists, and it's not very far down. Look at this. 2 webcasts are kind of one-off topics, but then we start seeing this, lesson 8, lesson 7, lesson 6. So if I go down to lesson 1, there's the brand new stuff. This is where I would say, if you're brand new to Thinkorswim, start here at lesson 1. And it begins with just downloading Thinkorswim, general navigation, getting acquainted for your very first time. And then in lesson 2, we start looking at each of the individual tabs in greater detail. First one is mastering the monitor tab, understanding how to check your positions and maybe customize things a little bit there. Yeah, it looks like you're getting a lot of thank yous, Jenny, for asking that question. A lot of people saying, yes, me too, thankful, because I had those questions. Good. Yeah, good question. All right, but we do have a final tool to go through. This one is possibly the most niche, but I know that there are going to be some that watch this that just love it. So let's go to our education tab and finish out this Thinkorswim release notes page. This is the claim a row with add label. Brr. Okay. If you've ever, so this is specifically addressing those people who like to use ThinkScript, create those little nifty little labels that like Ben Watson uses and other of our coaches use. You'll see them up in the upper left-hand corner of a chart or whatever. So this is a change to that. If you've ever tried to display multiple text labels on a chart, only to have them compete for the space and crowd over each other, this one's for you. We've added a new row ownership parameter to the add label function, and they've actually written sort of a guide to use that feature for those that use this. Anyway, I'll show you where to find that. We've added a new row ownership parameter to the add label function, which allows users to claim exclusive use of its row. That means you can display key values, trend summaries, or strategy signals without them getting crowded out by other labels. That's it. Okay, so I'm not going to go into think scripting right now. I think that this is a getting started with Thinkorswim discussion. It's getting a little bit deep in the weeds, but there is a great resource for understanding exactly what this is talking about if you're not familiar with the add label. There's a single page that will tell you how an add label might be added to a chart, and it will include a discussion of this new row ownership feature. So the way to find that, pretty straightforward. Just go up to the search function here on the education tab. Just look for add label. And as I start to type in, I only got to ADLA, and there's add label in the ThinkScript category. If I click on that, it takes me to this page. So you scripters, this gives us a script for adding a label. It provides a description of what we're trying to accomplish, and it gives a breakdown right down here for this new row ownership feature. So basically, if set to yes, this label claims ownership of the entire chart row. Other labels will be drawn on rows above or below. All right. Anyway, and then it gives an example down here. I'll let you read through that on your own. That would be a little bit too heavy for this, but I did want to at least introduce this, show you the resource that supported the new feature. And that kind of has us to the conclusion of our discussion. We've accomplished everything I wanted to do when I set out today. I wanted to talk through these new features that have been added to Thinkorswim Desktop. I wanted to get a little bit deeper into some of the features that were just updated, because some people may not have even been aware of the feature in the first place. So gave a little introduction to 2 or 3 of those. I've also given you some additional resources for videos to support the learning. But let's wrap it up. I want to let you go enjoy the rest of our educational offerings through the rest of the day. But of course, there are other resources outside of just these live stream videos. Okay, Janelle, welcome. you just made it in time for me to say goodbye, right? Janelle knows these are recorded anyway, so it's not a big deal if you're a little bit late. But yeah, number one, make sure that you have subscribed to the YouTube channel. So as one last reminder, the YouTube channel name is Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast. You can subscribe by clicking on the button down the lower right or on the button down below the video stream. Doesn't cost anything. It only takes a moment, but this is where we house our previous webcasts in a nifty little playlist, and you can do searches for keywords just like I did already today. Of course, you can even join the live streams right there on the channel. Another suggestion that Kevin and I both have is to follow us on X. If you have an account with X, you should be following us there. Some of the people here in the live stream right now can tell you I'm very active on X, and when you reply to one of my posts, I try to reply right back to you. I'd say I do a really good job with that. Not every single time, but the vast majority of the time. But to find Kevin on X, it's at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. But when I post something like, hey, this stock just had a huge gap up, do you generally see that as a buy signal for momentum if you're a chartist, or do you think it's maybe time to hit the pause button and wait to see? So it's interesting when people reply, we can sort of have these discussions. Janelle, you like those gifts? Well, good. Like the gifts too. All right. Everybody, thanks for joining me today. I can see about 120 people watching the live stream right now. And how many? 37 have clicked the thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed those new tools, those new updates to existing tools. When there are future releases, I'll go through those as well. You can actually go in the archives and find where I've reviewed new updates in the past. But Kevin, thanks for helping out in chat. Everybody, I will look for you in a future webcast. I'll also look for on X, but whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.